Down the stretch we come of the preseason for college football in the Dakotas in 2026. We are just 1 week away from the kickoff to the actual games, and 1 week before all the talking stops and the games start. Of course, the talking won't stop after the games start. We'll just have so much more to talk about, but we're here to keep you going until that kickoff. Welcome to your South Dakota Sports Lounge. I'm John Gaskins, host of Happy Hour with John Gaskins, every weekday at SiouxFallsLive.com and Midwest Sports Plus, the app, and soon on KSFL TV in Sioux Falls. And over the course of the next 45 plus minutes, you're going to hear a lot about the Jackrabbits, the Coyotes, the Bison from our 3 daily local shows in our Forum Communications family, all of which you can find at Midwest Sports Plus. Dom Izzo is going to take us into Fargo, where Tim Polasek, the North Dakota State head coach, had his final remarks before the end of fall camp and therefore before the first game week of not just 2026, but NDSU's barge into the wild frontier of the FBS. Injury updates and a feel of where the Bison are as they get set for Jacksonville State a week from Saturday. Then we'll go out to Rapid City, where Nate Brown is going to peek into the basketball season because Doug Gottlieb, national radio personality, popular on social media, former ESPN commentator, he's Wisconsin Green Bay's head coach, and that team is coming to the Pentagon in Sioux Falls on December 21st to play the South Dakota State Jackrabbits. And then we'll get the sense knocked back into us, back into August and football season, and Zach Borg will have a fun feature to take us home on Dan Jackson and Dan Jackson-isms. His players have gotten to know the second-year head coach well enough to know his quirks, and it'll be a good way for us to slide on into the weekend. But we will start the show hearing about the quarterbacks from both South Dakota State and USD. Matt Zimmer and I chatted on our weekly Nobody's Listening Anyway podcast, part of our happy hour repertoire each and every week. And we dove into why the Jackrabbits are the favorite and preseason-wise heavy favorite to win the Missouri Valley Football Conference and are the number 3 ranked team in the country, while the Yotes, while very good, are number 12 nationally and picked 5th in the Valley. And it has a lot to do with who is taking snaps. The Jacks are the team in South Dakota this year. Many people feel like they could get back to national championship form.
Well, they have the fewest question marks, and that's kind of what we've been talking about all through camp. And we've seen it in camp too, I've been to enough SDSU practices that I almost kind of feel like, oh, okay, I'm good. I know what this team has. I know who's playing where. There weren't a ton of position battles. There just aren't a lot of question marks. There's always, are you going to stay healthy? How much is this player going to improve? How much is this position group going to improve? But you kind of saw all that right from the jump. The big question marks coming from last year to this year were sort of defensive line. That has looked, I would say it's been a best case scenario. I don't think they could possibly ask for more than what they've gotten out of that group so far. We already knew how deep they were at linebacker. We knew how deep they were at receiver, tight end. All those things are filling in. Backup quarterback was another big question mark. I feel like that's been answered. I think Josh Holst is going to be QB2, but that is in no way a negative towards Jack Henry. He looks better than he did last year. They just happened to bring in a guy who started games at the FBS level. But you know what that means? They're 3 quarterbacks deep, and they had to go 3 quarterbacks deep last year, and it hurt them. Yes. That's what led to their losing streak. Of course. If that happens again this year, they're going to be much better prepared for it. When I look at the Jacks, I think the biggest question mark to me is probably the running back room. And again, that's not to suggest that I'm worried about it or they don't have good players there. But they got 3 guys coming back that played as true freshmen, and then Ramon McKinney, who transferred in from Division II. And I think he's only a sophomore or a junior. He's got a couple years left, too. They just don't have, last year Julius Lawford was a proven commodity. You knew what you had with him. They don't have that. That doesn't mean that they're not going to be fine there. I think they will be, but it's interesting to see how that's going to play out. Who's going to get the lion's share of the carries? How are they going to, is it going to be, will one guy emerge as the guy a Charles Pierre and LJ Phillips, or will they just, will 4 guys rush for 500 yards? We'll see how that plays out. So in that respect, I kind of feel like I know what I'm going to see from South Dakota State on August 29th against Stetson. With USD, it's not as certain. They came in with a lot more question marks, a third new coach in 3 years, and then obviously the quarterback situation has been the big question mark, having to replace most of their offensive line. The running back room obviously is loaded. I don't think USD is a team that I would worry about. I don't think they're not going to be a playoff team. It says something, obviously, about the Valley that they were picked 5th in the league and they're 12th in the national rankings. Yeah. That just goes to show you how strong the top of the Valley is. But there are question marks.
Yeah.
And I was at their scrimmage on Sunday, and I kind of walked in there saying, okay, maybe this is the day that Austin Majeski nails down the starting quarterback job, and he didn't do that. He might still be the starting quarterback on August 29th against Central Connecticut State at the Dakota Dome, but that's still up in the air. Jackson Proctor is still very much in the mix. Nevin Cremascoli's in the mix. I thought it was significant that Fitz admitted that we could see all 3 of them playing or 2 of them playing. We'll see how it goes. I don't. You saw his comments to me after the scrimmage. Sometimes the words look different than they sound, I don't think his tone was certainly not disappointment or negativity. In fact, when he was talking about how these last 10 days have really been hard on these guys, he meant that more as in because we've really been cracking the whip on them. He said it almost as if he was proud of it. Like, we've been putting these guys through it because we have to. Because if we just said, how good is the Valley? The 5th place team is a top 12 team in the nation. Well, that goes to show you that there's 4 teams above you that are really, really good. They can't be bringing these, whether it's Austin Majeski, the freshman, or one of the other 2 guys, they can't be bringing them along with baby steps. They got to throw them into the deep end of the pool and find out who can swim. So how much is that something to be worried about if you're a USD fan? I don't really know. I'd like to give you a reassuring, don't worry, it's going to be fine. Maybe it is. I still think they feel really good about those guys. But you can also tell that they hoped maybe one guy had asserted himself by now, and that hasn't happened.
You're sounding like you're that fits them as like a golf coach making his players tee off from the tiger tees from the way back when they're going to be playing from the blue tees when the tournament comes, and everything's going to seem easier because of what they prepared for, which, that's one way to go about it. So in light of that topic of quarterback, which is obviously the A topic for both of these schools, but particularly for USD, where you're replacing one of the best ever, a 3-year starter in Aidan Bouman, 3 quarterfinal appearances, and you're unsure of where things are headed. For those who are slightly Johnny-come-lately, you realized the calendar has slipped to August. Oh, my gosh, we're a week away from the games, and maybe you just haven't been keeping up with our constant coverage here all spring and summer long on Happy Hour. Here's Matt Vitztham from MVFC Media Day explaining the strengths of each of these quarterbacks in the 3-horse race. How did the season end with the 3-horse quarterback race? I'm sure you've picked a winner, and you're ready to tell us all this right now.
I'm not going to break it today. Sorry.
Have you really picked a winner?
We have not.
Okay.
No. We're going to head in here, I think, by the end of kind of that first week, 5-8 practices in, we're going to talk about moving a guy kind of into that role and taking all of the reps with the ones.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of been our plan for the first 5-6 months here is, it's been pretty open.
Yeah.
See if a guy can really kind of take a hold of it and keep that job. So like where we're at, continue to say that, like who we've surrounded them with, more importantly.
Yeah.
And just continue to reiterate, we don't need you to be Aidan Bouman. Be yourself, right?
Yeah.
And that'll be plenty good with those 3 guys.
You had a few practices, several practices after we last talked. And if there's not like one guy overall that emerged, what did you see? If you want to go through them, bing, bing, bing. Yeah. How would you evaluate what you saw, especially the positives from each guy from spring practice?
Yeah, I think Nevin Cremascoli. I know what we know what we're gonna get with Nevin, right? And there's a certain level of comfort with that, right? And there's that consistency factor of who he is, right? Austin Majeski, the freshman, would be a redshirt freshman next year. He's got that wow factor. You know what I mean? He's got a big arm. He's going to make some big plays, just kind of honing in on, limiting the damage of a freshman, right? Yeah. And I think that's going to be key for him in kind of this race. And then Jackson Proctor, for him, his legs, right? His ability to run the football and our ability as a staff to adapt to that type of quarterback. That's kind of the 3 things I would say kind of coming out of that we think we know about those three guys right now.
Yeah. Well, South Dakota State is a team last year that finished tied for 4th in the Valley at 5-3, but they're expected to win it this year. 28 of the 34 first-place votes, and we've mentioned just a ton of experience back. 9-5 last year. There was the 7-0 start. They were the only team all season to beat the eventual national champion Montana State at their place. And after 7-0, Chase Mason gets hurt. By then, Chase Van Tol from the defense had been hurt. Reese Kirschenman, a pass rushing machine. And then on offense, Lofton Ogroski, Mason's best target last year. Those guys were all hurt.
Lost Sam Hagan for a while.
So it wasn't just Mason. It was a bunch of their best players on both sides of the ball, and they lose 4 in a row, including embarrassingly to Indiana State at home, and then embarrassingly in different fashion, just getting waxed 35-0 before the seats were warm against eventual national runner-up Illinois State. And then, of course, Mason comes back, and they stitch it together to beat UND in overtime on an awesome – actually, he wasn't back yet. Jack Henry came of age enough to make a clutch play in overtime against UND, comeback win. It looked like the season was dead and the 14-year playoff streak was dead. And everybody, and including their third-string quarterback, on the road lifted them out of it. And then Chase comes back for the New Hampshire game in the snow in the playoffs, an emphatic win. He raised a lot of eyebrows, I think, in the NFL that day. And then there was the 50-29 loss at Montana. So that's the backdrop for a team that I think the big storyline and the why there's such great expectations. All these guys coming back, plus, of course, it's not a big fire drill over there in fall camp to get everything ready,
Well, I think the best way to look at it is they are a better team today than the team that was 7-0, ranked second in the nation, and beat Montana State in Bozeman. They're better than that team.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you can say they went. What we all know what happened in the second half of the season. Well, there were reasons for that. I'm not making excuses for them because the games still count, and you're 9-5. You are. Your record says you are, but Chase Mason's back now. Lofton Ogroski's back now. The defensive line has way more depth than it did. They addressed everything, really. And like I said, there just aren't very many question marks. And it's when you look at a team and say, this team beat the national champion in their house, and they have since improved, well, then that's a pretty good football team.
Yeah. Well, it starts with Chase, and those of us who have been watching him for several years understand what he is and what he has. And he's 6'4", and he's 240, 250. Now he's even stronger, even faster, according to Dan Jackson. His joke is Chase's abdominals are even stronger because he's golfed a lot in the summer. That's okay. But
so they timed him at running 22 miles an hour.
Wow.
Yeah.
And yet there are still people who are finding it hard to believe that this kid who's played 9 games at South Dakota State, A, was offered 7 figures in Power 4 conferences, and B, is a early to mid-round NFL draft pick. But we've beaten the drum pretty loudly all off season, but we'll do it again since this is our preview. I just expect with a lot of his weapons back and 4 of his 5 offensive linemen back, he's going to be destructive if he stays healthy.
He's got to stay healthy, and it wasn't just last year. Staying healthy has been a challenge throughout his career. So that's the key for him. I thought he over-delivered last year because people forget. Yes, he has this pedigree. He has these bona fides. He has he played baseball at Nebraska. He was an FBS recruit. He's this freakish athlete with all the measurables and how big he is and how fast he is and everything. But until last year, he hadn't done it. He had barely played college football. And the college football he played, he was mostly a running back. So you forget, you go back to this time last year, we were all saying, well, we think he's going to be pretty good, but we don't know. And he was very good. He was very, very good. 18 touchdowns and 4 interceptions.
Yes, he's completed 68% of his passes, averaged 267 passing yards and 90 rushing yards a game.
He was electric. And he's only going to be better. He's only got that much more experience under his belt. He does look bigger. The accuracy has improved. Yeah, he still misses one, hits a guy in the feet or throws it over his head maybe once or twice, but those are fewer and fewer and fewer. And just the way he's able to throw the ball on the run, the way he's able to step up in the pocket, the way his eyes, how his eye discipline or whatever you want to say has improved. I don't know if he's going to be an NFL guy. I don't try to predict any of that. J.J. McCarthy got picked number 10 overall, and now people think he's a complete bust, and maybe he is. It's the most inexact science there is. Yep. So I'm not going to sit here and say he's a first-round pick or he's not an NFL quarterback at all. I don't know. I just know he's got as many tools as I've ever seen in a quarterback anywhere, and he's surrounded by a lot of really good players.
Matt Zimmer on the Happy Hour College Football Preview Show, Jackson Yotes edition, which you can find on the Happy Hour page at SiouxFallsLive.com or wherever you find your podcasts. You can watch that show at SiouxFallsLive.com or at Midwest Sports Plus. We had a full gambit beyond the quarterback of the position battles, the areas of strength and weakness at USD and SDSU. Full 1 hour show to really get you ready for both of those schools' seasons. Meanwhile, up in Fargo, Dom Izzo has, of course, been talking Bison, as he always does. But now, here we go, into the FBS circuit and some final primers from the head coach.
Yesterday, as mentioned off the top, we had our final media availability for Bison Fall Camp. Officially, I think it shuts down on, and I say shut down, they'll still be practicing, but then the transition goes to game week and the preparation for Jacksonville State. So went up there and got some video and a couple other interviews that we'll share, whether it's on here or on our newscast. We have another preview show coming up on Sunday in all due time. But we had a chance to visit with the head football coach just to not necessarily put a bow on things, but they had their second scrimmage on Saturday to get an update from that. And also a couple of injury updates as well, most notably Reese Kessel, who tweaked his back when we were at practice last Monday and have been held out for the last week. As I was setting up the tripod to get ready to interview Tim, I saw number 81 coming out with shoulder pads and everything. So first question was about Reese Kessel's availability going forward from here.
High intense running on the side, a little bit of individual work the last couple of days here. Just backs are finicky. I think we avoided a scare. I think he's going to be okay. Just a matter of wanting to get him comfortable. He most certainly has improvement to do, but he's also laid down. These guys that are in the third year in our program, from a what-to-do standpoint, we feel comfortable in easing him back. So today will be a little bit individual, some 7-on-7, and then I forecast after the day off, probably about 50% of the volume.
Second scrimmage is on Saturday. Give us an overview of what you saw and solidifying some things maybe you wanted to before 2 weeks out.
Yeah, that walk we were talking about is helpful. I nailed that question. I would say this. Defensively, they had some situations that they should win at a high percentage. 10 or 12 two-point plays. Two-point plays aren't very, very successful in the college game. And so they operated at a high level there. I thought they won the low red zone compete drills. The future offense did really well. Okay, so overall the scrimmage, I think defense probably gets the nod. I think their spirit and energy was on point. But then you look at how we responded on offense yesterday with the situational pass stuff and pass protection in a really compromised position. That might have been Nathan Hayes' best practice in his time here, even while he's trying to work through a hamstring. So some really good back and forth. We didn't tackle quite as much as we originally planned, just with the amount of injuries that we are acquiring right now. Nothing major for the season, but I wanted to take care of the team.
Yeah, just talk about the relief that Kessel's healthy and how, the other tight ends, when they see he kind of maybe limited a little bit, how have they elevated or tried to elevate in that absence?
Well, there's a direct correlation to when somebody goes down, it creates opportunity for others. And sometimes I have looked at it as an offensive coordinator and a head coach, like, okay, that'll be all right. That's going to create some competition. That's going to create some opportunity that we could pay the dividends off or get rewarded later. And so you've seen that group be forced to put Zenzen in some different situations in the past game. I thought he answered the bell. You see Gabe Cunningham's ability to practice rep after rep after rep, and he continues to get better. So there's always a little bit of a blessing in disguise when somebody does go down for a period of time, as long as it's not extended.
Any other spots you've kept an eye on or keep an eye on this last little bit of fall camp?
I don't know. It gets to this point. We're 12 days out. I'm really happy to be able to get to this point and talk to you guys about how we're really – the excitement and all that of the move up is over. Okay, now a coach or the man in the arena goes through a multitude of emotions, and that's where we're at now. So we've got to attack these concerns or weaknesses. We got to highlight our strengths. And so to answer your question, yes, the corners got to keep coming on. And if it's going to be a whole group doing that, great. Or is it going to be 2 or 3 guys emerge? Linebacker, again, those combinations, I'm starting to look at the flexibility we have there in some different packages. I think that's playing out. And so the last part of this is, how is Nathan Hayes going to play in big moments? He's really prepared. He's earned this opportunity, but his legacy will solely be dependent on, does he or does he not make the plays, and does he be himself? And so those are some areas that we still, guys, there is an element of, we got to get to the games to see. Like, if I could predict the future and give the fans all the insight to how it's going to go down, doesn't mean I'm not confident. It's just, we're going to need some of these games at the FBS level to figure out which way we have to redirect some recruiting, which way do we have to tweak some schemes, and then we're going to have to go from there. This is going to be fun.
You talk about position groups. So offensive line, if you think of 5, 6, 7, if you come up with a number?
I'm going to master this year on how to answer all these questions. The kids that we have are doing a phenomenal job. We love the amount of improvement. They're all coachable, and they're trying to be very best Bison they can be to hold up the legacy of what it is to be a Ram. That's what we got. And they're playing, and they're getting better every day, and they're going to have to make their minds up that they want to be a connected group, and so that we can come and talk about, man, they're playing connected. Each and every one of these guys are doing a good job as a group. The 5 that we're going to send is pretty solidified. There's no reason for me to give it to you guys at all, because we don't need anybody being deterred from doing their best and continuing to push, because at the end of the day, we're going to need 8 of them.
We've talked about some of this before, Tim, but I saw some list where you guys are like going to be the 3rd most traveled college football team this year. Yeah, behind, I think, Hawaii and Sac State, I think. Yeah. And so I don't know if you've addressed that, or apparently you.
No, you guys are good at what you do. Last year
I spent way too much time on the internet, but anyway.
Last year, wasn't that the case too? That we.
Definitely an FCS.
An FCS for sure.
Yeah. There's been a lot of attention. I've worked behind the scenes with Josh Rosenthal and Derek Lucan at our travel plans. We've had meetings about traveling. My biggest concern with the amount of travel that we have is simply Sundays and the preparation for the next week. I'm not that concerned about going out right now unless I learn something new that I'm unaware of. Traveling west to play is not the challenge in it. It's getting back and getting to sleep, getting refreshed, and putting together a good plan for the next week. But I guess I would say it's kind of exciting to go see some new cities. I think in year 1, there's going to be a lot of learning that happens. I think we're going to have to reflect on every trip and, like, is there something we do different, and log that away for the next time we go. And so there's not much we can do about it except for learn and grow from each opportunity, then rise up to the challenge and be good road warriors.
I want to ask you, Thomas Roberts is either the most talked about guy on the team, most popular, or maybe the strongest guy on the team. What have you noticed in the couple of years he's been?
I can't deny or confirm any statement. No, just immense improvement. Our camp still matters. And it's not show up for 4 hours and think you're going to get evaluated. You need to show up 2 days and do what he did. And then, a coach has got to go sit in the stands with his dad and promise him you're going to take care of him. And if your son does the work and stays true to the development, a lot of people can have the same story as Thomas Roberts. And I think we'll see. As the season travels, I would predict that could be one of these stories that grows and grows and grows. We're really appreciative of his toughness, his approach, and his Bison pride for a redshirt freshman is pretty high.
I'm sure you've answered this before, but how has it changed walk-ons now that you're under the FBS rules?
There's just going to be less, guys. I mean, we are recruiting. It's a great question, Eric, but we are recruiting to a 105 model that somewhere in there, right, is going to have 95 or so guys on scholarship. It's one of my concerns with 105. At some point, maybe after the season, I think there's a story there, a real story to talk about it. I really hope that's one of the things the NCAA, people like Gene Taylor and his assistants, continue to look at. I just don't think 105 is the magic number. 108 is a lot better than 105. 111 is a lot better than 105 because we're here to cultivate opportunity for young people. And that's to get a degree from an institution like North Dakota State. Number 2, become the best they can be. And then number 3, reach their goals and their dreams of earning a scholarship.
Good stuff there from the head ball coach yesterday, ranging from offensive line to a couple health updates. Kessel, as I mentioned, was back out doing some limited work. There were a few others. Nate Tosted still out. He's not going to be ready for the opener, doesn't look like. So the 5 guys that Polasek's talking about are a set of the ones that we've been surmising here for the last couple of weeks are going to be the guys who will be out there on offensive line. We had DJ Volts on yesterday. He was in that conversation at corner. Volts is there. Marion Moore is in there. I think Najee Nelson is in that. That part I'm really interested to see what they trot out for the opener, certainly against a 6'8 guy from Jacksonville State.
Zach Borg takes us back to Brookings for some Dan Jackson-isms to end the show. But first, we go out to Rapid City, and Nate Brown just couldn't help himself. Looking forward to Round Ball in December, where a famous coach of a mid-major team will come on into Sioux Falls and take on the Jacks.
Busy show tonight. If you missed parts of it, go to the Nate Brown Show podcast. It's on Apple, Spotify, Amazon. Go to the Nate Brown Show podcast. You've got us. We are live. I haven't had him for a while. He's been a little busy. I don't know. He's like he has a new job and stuff. University of Wisconsin Green Bay head men's basketball coach Doug Gottlieb back on in South Dakota because he's coming to South Dakota. The Sanford Pentagon, Sioux Falls, Monday, December 21st. Wisconsin Green Bay coming into play South Dakota State men's basketball. Mark it down. They just announced it today. And Doug back on the Nate Brown Show. Doug, I got to tell you, do you miss doing this radio thing every single day? Because I do miss your show. I will tell you that.
Maybe. I mean, listen, I love doing radio. It's super cathartic. And I still, I was having lunch with actually one of our donors, and I was like, this is going to sound like a radio take, and then I went into something. So, I mean, it was very healthy living at that point, and I love the guys I worked with, especially my last kind of incarnation of the show. And I miss kind of, I always felt like I didn't have anything more to say when I got done with my show on a daily basis. So that part, yeah, I miss that. What I don't miss is, just I didn't have the ability doing a radio show and coaching Division I basketball and trying to, I'm going to a donor's house right now, going to watch the Pack game. But, I mean, I didn't see the first drive. I'm not going to watch every preseason game. I don't,
right.
I don't keep track of everything. It's the time commitment outside of the radio show that I don't miss, just because I didn't want to ever sound like a fool, didn't know what I'm talking about. So, I now have lots of gleeful ignorance, where I didn't even know that happened, because I really don't. I didn't know a lot of this stuff happened.
Well, I don't just say that. I appreciated the show. I really did, and I think it was a great Fox Sports radio show over the years. A lot of success there this last year compared to your first year at Green Bay. So I want to get into some hoops here. Tough first year, and then a huge jump, 18 wins the second year. What do you credit it with?
Yeah. Well, there was a couple of things. I mean, obviously I got the job late. We didn't have a lot of money. And then I had the nation's leading scorer, and he broke his ankle. And then, we had no size. And, one of our big guys left the program. And then, we brought over an Israeli kid midseason, and he got hurt and played kind of through concussion symptoms late. So it was one of those, everything that could go wrong went wrong. Plus, I was inexperienced, and I don't think I did a good enough job in finding a staff that filled in my holes. And so, we turned over the roster. We had better time to plan and prepare, and I hired a much better staff. And I let really good coaches coach, and I learned some from them. I think we found kind of uniting force in the fact that everybody thought we were going to be bad again, and we proved them wrong. We won 18 after winning 4, and, if you ask everybody in the program, I probably should have won 20, 21. We had some things go wrong that kept us from there, but I would say the biggest thing is hiring a better staff and trusting that guys that had been through the process. You know, I have one coach, Terry Rupp, he's 72 years old. Like, he's been doing this literally for 50 years. So that experience is so invaluable to a head coach that has so little experience at the Division I level, and I think that's a big part of it.
Wisconsin Green Bay head men's basketball coach Doug Gottlieb is on in South Dakota tonight because the Phoenix are coming to the Sanford Pentagon. If you missed this announcement, it just came out today, Monday, December 21st. That's the game. Sanford Pentagon, Sioux Falls. Green Bay taking on South Dakota State. I'm going to get to how this came together. One more on this. What's the next step for your program this year? You got knocked out second round of the Horizon tournament. Are you talking, well, we got to get to the tournament? Is that the step?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's everybody's goal. I mean, look, you got to show that you can have sustained success and sustained viability, So, okay, you won 18. We only have one Division I home game in the non-conference, so it's still a brutal schedule when you're having to go play these guaranteed games to make money. So we got to find a way to keep our heads above water in the non-conference, and at minimum get back to the level we were last year, and take the next step. But sustaining a level of success is incredibly important. And then it's not crazy hard to get. It's hard to get to above 500. Now to get to 20, 21, 25, that's really hard, and that's the next step. I don't know if we're there. I think we're more athletic than we were, but we're not close to perfect. We had a little scrimmage today, and we got to kind of navigate the end of this kind of roster cycle and figure that out. But the next step is sustained success. We can't get ahead of ourselves and think that we're going to go win 20, 25, 27 games. Year 3, a program that has been down for really the last 7-8 years, except for 2 years ago with Sundance Wicks and last year with me. We got to show we can get back to that level before we can even think about taking that next step to the tournament.
Speaking of roster and roster construction this day and age, South Dakota State's kind of in the same boat. They've had success in the past. They try and build a new roster every year. It feels like that's the thing, Doug. Where do you stand on this Protect College Sports Act that's trying to get a handle on the transferring and other things? Where do you stand on it?
I mean, I don't agree with all of it. I just know that we need it. And for people who don't understand, we have plenty of rules. Probably too many, but we got plenty of rules. But it does feel like any rule that's passed by the NCAA, and for people to understand, when a law passed the NCAA, that they are approved by the member schools, they still don't always hold up in court. So it's like, what are we doing here? What is even the point of talking about these rules if somebody can sue and get a rule? And it's not, a lot of times it's not even overturned. It's just an injunction, so somebody can do whatever they want, because there is no rules. So we need something. It's not going to be a perfect law. And the issue with it is, like any law in Congress, everybody's trying to throw in pork. Oh, do the thing about protecting women's sports and do this and do that. And, I mean, the money for the high majors is $48 million thing or whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's like it's not even a concept that we can think about at Green Bay. We're like, whatever you guys do your thing. For us, we just need to have the ability to, if a player signs a contract, they have to live up to that contract. If they leave and there's a buyout in that contract, they have to pay the money back, or they can't play elsewhere, just like any other contract. There has to be rules, and there has to be more protection for the players, too. I don't think they need more money, because a lot of them are getting a lot more money than they could in the true open market professional, but I would agree that they need some protection, because the truth is, we can cut them anytime we want. And the thing that people need to be cautious of, everybody's like, well, they need to be employees. Just remember, employees can be fired, okay? They can be fired. Whereas you really can't fire a kid once the school year starts. The NCAA does have some smart legislation where you can't just get rid of a kid.
Yeah.
And then, the one-time transfer thing, that sounds great. Okay, but what happens to players who are in college who have already transferred? Does that mean now they have to stay at their school? And just so people understand, a one-time transfer is really two-time transfer, because with 5 years, You'll likely graduate after your 4th year, and then you can transfer because we can't keep you from can't mandate you have to go to grad school at the school that you're at. They may not have the program, and it's a loophole that's been exposed, but it is there. So it's a long answer, but Nate, I haven't read it chapter and verse. I know some of the basics of it. I don't think it's the greatest rules in the world, but the big part of the structure is it allows the NCAA to pass their own eligibility rules, and those to be the rules, and you can't sue.
Yeah.
So whatever we got to do to get that done so that the NCAA does have some teeth. And again, you don't like the NCAA, that's fine. I don't care who the legislating body is. There has to be a legislating body, and they have to have rules, and then we have to operate within those rules. That's the case with any sport. It doesn't, like, this is the reason that the UFC has been so successful and the boxing world is a mess. Boxing has no real leadership, no one unifying force. UFC does. The UFC is dominating in comparison to boxing. Do you still have some boxing matches that people make $100 million on? Yeah, but that's a one-off here or there, whereas the UFC is seemingly on a weekly basis, and they're humming along. That's why we need some sort of structure. We need some sort of leadership.
I talked to South Dakota State and University of South Dakota. They are supportive of the Protect College Sports Act. Not perfect, as you say, but they're in support of it around here. Doug Gottlieb's on tonight. Let's talk about this game. So people in Sioux Falls, they're going to be at the Pentagon. It's a great venue. You haven't been there, Doug. I saw that in the release. I think it's outstanding. It's not huge, but it's a great basketball arena. So just tell me, you're coming to Sioux Falls, South Dakota in December. Why?
Yeah. Because Ty, who put the game on, I mean, he did a look. Here's how scheduling works. I know because I kind of sort of took it over from my staff as well. Is that you just wear people out, wear them down, and for us, they've called every day seemingly or texted almost every day with various teams, and we want to play South Dakota. We couldn't make the dates work. We are playing North Dakota. I think 4 days before that game.
Okay.
So, but I mean, look, the Stanford Health sweetened the pot, and so we'll be able to bring home a little bit of money. And then South Dakota State agreed to come back next year. They're going to play us at a neutral site, sort of close to us, right? So it's 45 minutes from us is Oshkosh, where the Wisconsin Herd, that's the G League team for the Bucks, play. So we'll play them there next year, and so it'll be a home neutral, which is new for us, and it's an area just like getting to Sioux Falls is huge for them. Getting to Oshkosh and Appleton and that's the Fox River Valley is big for us. So yeah, it's a series that makes sense. And those the teams in the Summit League and the OVC, they need a lot. They only have, I think, 14 conference games, so they've needed a lot more games. So that's why we're doing the home and home same year with North Dakota, and with South Dakota State we're doing it this way. So it just kind of worked schedule-wise, and, we had a couple games to sort of play with, and we were supposed to go to Hawaii at that time. Then Hawaii kind of changed the dates on us, and, it's a hard call between Sioux Falls and Honolulu, but we chose Sioux Falls.
Yes.
And, our clothing may live. What I need to know what to do between North and South Dakota for 3 days, because we play on the 17th against North Dakota and the 21st. So the 20th is prep day, right? We got to get ready because the Jackrabbits are going to be good, and that place is going to be popping. And, the 18th, we're going to watch film, and we'll give the guys a day off. So I need to know, I need something to do.
Wow.
And the other part to it is, as I've told you before, only 2 states in the Union I haven't been to, North and South Dakota.
Yes.
And I'm checking them off in 1 week in December.
That's excellent. Now, I'm going to think on that in the middle of December between North Dakota and South Dakota, something to do. I will get back to you on that, I promise you. That's a tough call. But you will enjoy the Pentagon.
If North Dakota plays a hockey game after, like the day after, then we'd probably do that, right? That'd be pretty cool.
That's gold right there. You're going to enjoy the Pentagon, Doug. I will tell you, it's a great venue. You know this. D1 programs, some pretty high-level ones have come in here and played some neutral site games. So the Sanford Pentagon Sioux Falls is going to be popping with Green Bay against South Dakota State Monday, December 21st. Doug Gottlieb on tonight. I'll let you run with this. One football question. Now you're a Packers. I mean, you're right there. So you got to be Packers homer. Tell me, Packers NFC North, where do they land?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, when's Micah Parsons back? And, for them, I mean, obviously late in the year, Jordan Love was playing really good ball. Early in the year, he's turning over too much. I mean, obviously they have questions about their kicking game. So I actually like their schedule because even though they open up on the road, their teams that the Packers should start 3-0 or 2-1 minimum. But Minnesota, I know they open up with them. By the way, just so you know, here's how creative we were trying to get. I think you'll love this, and people like to know this. So South Dakota State, North Dakota, we offered all of them a chance to play us at home. I think when's the Vikings Packers? I think it's November 15th.
Okay.
So we were going to play at home on the 14th. I was just thinking, hey, you come in and you watch our game, go to our game the night before, then you go to the Packer-Viking game.
Love it.
And none of them could make it work schedule-wise.
Okay.
So maybe next year with South Dakota State, we'll try and make it work schedule-wise so people can go see the Vikings play the Packers. That'd be a hell of a weekend. But, I mean, I don't think the Lions have been the same since Ben Johnson left.
Yeah.
I'll be interested to see if the Bears, obviously they had a ton of momentum last year, winning in the playoffs, beating the Packers. But second year it becomes a little bit more real, a little bit harder. And they weren't great last year. Maybe Caleb Williams takes a step, maybe not. And then the Vikings, I mean, man, they pulled that trigger on McCarthy, which I do kind of agree with. But, Kyler Murray, Arizona couldn't wait to get rid of him. And so now I guess maybe it works. You have the quarterback whisper with the head coach, but I feel good. People around here feel good about where the Packers are. They wonder about the kicking game, and you wonder about when Micah Parsons gets back. But I think they feel like this has got to be the year where they're getting deeper into the playoffs than they've gotten in the past couple years. And I will say that I'm still a Charger fan too, and it works.
All right.
The AFC NFC thing.
Okay, you can. I've
gotten approval from so many of my Packer fans. Because the Chargers, they're not an offensive team. Nobody's like, oh, you can't be a Charger. If I was a Raider fan, even though it's also AFC, I would probably be hated around here. But Chargers, I usually get the okay.
They'll let that slide. I got you. From L.A. to Green Bay.
Hey, Nate, have you been to Lambeau?
I have not.
Okay, so as I told you I'd eventually come see you. I got to get to Sturgis. I got to get to the Black Hills.
Yes.
I do have to see some South Dakota. Okay, but you have now an open invite. It can't be the week of or a couple days before. You tell me when you want to come, and I'll take care of you to come to Lambeau.
Big time.
And I'm going to tell you, it's even better than you thought.
I believe that. Now, I want to watch your team play, too, so I want to work on this, okay? I want to work on this.
Here's the weekend, okay? So we're having exhibition games against Wisconsin and against Marquette.
Wow.
And then against Illinois State. So Marquette is October 19th. October 18th is Cowboys, Packers, Sunday Night Football, Lambeau Field.
Boy. All right. I'm going to have an executive session with my wife tonight, okay? It's a meeting, all right? Let me clear that.
Okay. But if you do want to come, you literally need to tell me sometime by the end of next week because the hotel rooms are really, really hard.
I believe that. You're coming to Sioux Falls. We're looking forward to this. Appreciate you coming on, Doug, on short notice. We'll look forward to catching up. And December 21st, Sanford, Pentagon. Everybody's excited for the Jackrabbits in Wisconsin, Green Bay. Thanks for hopping in. I appreciate it.
Anytime. As long as they don't whip out Mike Dom, I think we got a chance. We can't get dominated.
No, that's right.
All right, let's go back to the gridiron. Let's go back to the eastern side of the state, and let's go to Brookings, where Zach Borg was at Jackrabbit Football Media Day last week. And we're getting to know Dan Jackson, the head coach, better. Those who are familiar with SDSU knew him well as an assistant coach under John Stiegelmeier in some of the formative years when the Jackrabbits were growing into one of the powerhouses of the FCS. Of course, back in January 2026, he was taking over as the head coach. And after a 9-5 first season, not only are there higher expectations for SDSU this year, we now know Dan a little bit better. His players know him really well. Here's how well.
So here at South Dakota State Media Day, I'm going to give you a little pro tip. Just about everybody at a media day asks some variation of the same questions, and it all gets kind of monotonous. So I'm always looking to ask the hard-hitting question, the different one. And I figured now that head coach Dan Jackson is in his second season, we could maybe pick up on some of the Dan Jackson-isms, his mannerisms. And I got some perhaps surprising answers.
You know, I have some quirks. When I talk in front of the media, I say the word obviously too much. I say, I love the word obviously, or you know what I mean? And so my dad actually will watch these interviews and he'll shoot me texts of critiques on saying too much or where my eyes are at. So I see a motivated, fresh, excited team is unmatched in this state. Whether it is a player out at lunch, that anybody in your conference can beat you any given Saturday, and anybody in your conference has an opportunity to win the conference every year. So you'd have to ask the players, because I know that there's starting to become some inside jokes among the team, and the guys are going to give you a hard time about. They see after practice, I always start with saying the same thing. I look for somebody in the back with their eyes, or if I start getting going with my hands in a team meeting, they know it's going to be a longer one.
So for spring ball, we have a shirt that we give out, hit for 15. Like if you practice all 15 spring practices and you don't miss a period or whatever, you get the shirt, right? Well, one day he comes in, he's like, yeah, so got everybody on this hit for 15 list. Like I said, you're getting this shirt. We're flying you guys out to here, giving you all inclusive. Some of the guys like standing up, believing it. And he's like, nah, I'm just kidding. And I don't know, the room kind of erupted. That was a good one. I don't know. He's a goofball. I love him. He's always so funny.
When I get excited, I know there's something. Come on, let's go. You know, I know there's going to be some jokes about my excitement to see them.
But I know, like, when he get excited, he go like, let's go. That's kind of like how you say it, too.
He loves sitting in defensive meetings. And then all of a sudden, he'll just, like, drop a random fact on you about the whole defense. So, like, we'll be talking about something up front with the D-line. And all of a sudden, he'll just chime in and mention something the safety's doing on this play. And it's like, oh, wow, I didn't even know the safety was fitting outside on this. So it's kind of funny. You don't even know he's in the meeting, and then all of a sudden he just randomly chimes in.
Like a ninja or something?
Yeah, I don't know. He just sneaks up in the room, but he just quietly sneaks in the back. And he'll just randomly chime in on the meeting.
Please don't hurt us.
He's a smart dude, though. I figured that out pretty fast. He knows defense pretty well.
We'll be the most physical, connected, and disciplined team in the nation. That's something he go by, and that's something we preach to each other, and that's something we actually believe we don't do.
Is always talking about how we need to be a brotherhood and we need to be connected because, if you're playing for your brother, you're going to play a lot harder, and to not play for yourself, but to, play for your teammates.
He's got a lot of old Coach Stig stuff, like NG. He'll say NG every once in a while. Not good.
Tried to drop a holy nutmeg?
That came up in the meeting the other day. That was pretty funny, actually.
He did say holy nutmeg the other day, so that's pretty crazy.
He does. He started getting on that, too. That's one thing I can attest to. He has started saying the holy nutmeg instead of cussing.
Yeah, I think we were giving one of our senior speeches, and someone brought that up, and then Coach said it. That was funny.
Oh, holy nutmeg? Oh, 100%. We need to put that back on the door. That'll never leave nothing to chance, make a difference in holy nutmeg. Coach Stig's vernacular became my vernacular, so I don't know if it ever left me when I left here. So just had to bring some of them back.
Big thanks to Zach Borg. Also, of course, to Dom Izzo and Nate Brown and Matt Zimmer. And you can catch all of our segments, all of our shows. Happy Hour with John Gaskins, Hot Mic with Dom Izzo, and the Nate Brown Show. They're all there for you on the Midwest Sports Plus app. And a reminder, if you're a Jackrabbit or Coyote fan, and if you follow Augustana, the University of Sioux Falls, and all the high school teams in the Sioux Falls metro area, and even if you want to follow beyond, there are so many well-researched, well-written articles at SiouxFallsLive.com, and also videos of all of us at Sioux Falls Live talking about the high school and college football sports scene. We've been doing it all year, but the season is almost here. Check it all out and come on back. For video producer Cordell Wright and for our content director, Drew Trafton, I'm John Gaskins. We'll chat next week where we'll be even closer to the actual kickoff of the 2026 football season here on the South Dakota Sports Lounge. Cheers!